Okay, so in the last thrilling instalment, we talked about finding the mean of a list of numbers, and I reminded you that to work out the mean, you take the total of all the values divided by the number of values, and I introduced you to this notation. X bar is the mean, sigma x, that's a big sort of capital E, sigma x means the sum of all the values, sum of x, and n is the number of values. So, and we used our calculator, and we also calculated a quantity called standard deviation, which has that symbol. I didn't show you how that calculation is actually done manually. That's something we will do next year. So I want to move on today to using the calculator to work out a mean of a frequency distribution. So you may remember that working out the mean of a set of data like this, you don't have to do, so we've got one person who had 2 cups of coffee, 3 people who had 3 cups of coffee, 5 people who had 4 cups of coffee. You don't need to do 1 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 4. You can do multiplication, can't you, to speed it up. So we multiply those all together. And so the total of these numbers gives us the total of all our values, and the total of those numbers gives you the number of values. And we have a slightly different notation we use when we've got a frequency distribution. So the thing that we're recording, in this case we asked people how many cups of coffee they had, that's x, and the frequency we'll call f. So this third column where we put our totals is xf, or sometimes fx, means the same thing. And so what we've got here is the total of all the frequencies, sigma f, and this is the total of all of those multiplication sums, which is sigma xf or sigma fx. So this symbol here, sigma, just means the total of, the sum of. It's just a notation, a quick way of writing the total of, or the sum of. Okay, so I am not going to work all that out manually. So to work out the mean, in this case, x bar, you would take the total of all the values, sigma xf, and divide by the number of values, sigma f. So this sum here is the same as this sum here, it's come from a frequency distribution. So I am going to type this into my calculator, and we need to be slightly careful about how we do this because it's subtly different to the way we did before. So if I shunt things around a little bit, there we go. So I'm going to press menu, and I'm going to go to statistics mode, press XE to get into statistics mode. I've got the data there from last time, so I'm going to go to delete all here, and then the same across here, delete all, and then scroll through, there we go. So I'm now going to type in this table of data, and I'm going to type the x values in the first column, list 1, and the frequency values in the second column, list 2. So you do that while I'm doing it as well. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Obviously with YouTube, you can pause the video at any point. You can't do that with me in class, although some of you would often try. It is a better way of working in some ways. So there we go. I've entered the two columns, the x and the f values. But now I need to tell the calculator that this isn't two lists of numbers, this is a frequency distribution. These are the number of cups of coffee, these are how many people had those cups of coffee. So I go to calc, like we did in the last one, and I go to set. And this time I say that the x list is my list of x values in list 1, and my frequencies, which actually I think on your calculator will still be like that, the frequencies are to be found in list 2. So you go to list and 2 and press XE. Again, we're not worried about the two variable stuff because we haven't got two variables. This is just one thing we've recorded. How many cups of coffee did you drink yesterday? So that needs to be set up like that. The X list, list 1, the frequency, list 2. I'm then going to press exit to get back to the data. And then 1 var, not 2 var, because this is just one variable, to get the summaries. Now, this is where it's unfortunate. Remember I've said that with a single list of numbers, the mean is sigma x over n, but with a frequency distribution, it's this notation. However, the calculator doesn't use this notation. It still uses this notation. So sigma f is 22. And sigma xf is there. Sorry, no, it's not. It's here, sigma x. Sigma x is how the calculator displays it. So the calculator doesn't use this notation here. It's still using this notation here. But this value here is the total of all of those sums. It's sigma xf. And n is the total of all the frequencies. And as last time, I'm not going to bother working that out because the calculator's already done it for me. It's 4.59, and as always, we round to 3 significant figures by default, unless we're told otherwise. Standard deviation, again, I'm not going to go through the sum for calculating that. We'll do that in class next year, but it is 1.11. Okay, so I have calculated the mean and standard deviation for this set of data. It uses the same method that we've learnt at GCSE, but the calculator does it all for us. So now I want you to have a go at one yourself, and I'm giving you a list of grouped data. So what I want you to think is, how are you going to enter this data on your calculator? You need to think about what we did with grouped data at GCSE. You certainly don't want to be entering 140 and 150. You've got to think about how we coped with that at GCSE. Have a go, pause the video, and I'll show you the answer in just a moment. So, did you remember how we do it? With group data we use the midpoints, and that means that we're only able to estimate the mean and any other calculation based on group data. We don't actually know those values. We know we've got 7 people in this survey with a height somewhere between 140 and 150. We don't know what their height actually were. So we use the midpoints. Did you spot my nasty little trick at the bottom here? This group was wider than the others, so the midpoint of that one was 190. So I entered those values into my calculator. It was still set up correctly. It was still set up where these are my x values, these are my frequencies. And then I went to, just to remind you, calc and 1var, and the total of all the values, sigma xf, even though the calculator calls it sigma x, was 10075. Sigma f was 60, the sum of all the frequencies was 60. And so actually that number, when you round it to 3 significant figures, is 168, isn't it? And I've actually got a unit here. This is actually height in centimetres. Standard deviation is 13.4, and that's also in centimetres. Remember, standard deviation is a measure of spread. Now, on its own, the mean is useful. I can say that in this group of people, on average, they were 168 centimetres tall. Measures of spread are useless on their own. You can only really use them when you've got 2 sets of data to compare. So you can say this set of data is more spread out than the other one. Okay, I'll pause at that point and then talk about what I'd like you to have a look at between now and Friday. Okay, so in the last video I explained how you could download our induction pack. Hopefully you've done that. You've got the questions in one document and then worked solutions in another document. Those are my work solutions, so if you're someone I've taught, then you will know that you'll probably know the techniques I've used. If you've been taught by another teacher, it might be slightly different to the way you've been shown how to do it. We should all get the same answers though. I'm not going to work through that induction pack with you. You need to work through that at your own pace, and certainly by the time we are back together in September, hopefully, I expect you to have completed all of that. I'm not going to take it in and mark it, that's down to you, but we do an assessment based on that material specifically in the second week back, and you need to be able to have coped with that work if you are going to continue with A-level maths. So if working through that you've come across any problems, please email me. I think the only really tricky part of it is the surds in section 9. Can I just point out that that's Mr. Mawson's, not this, this is my handwriting. The handwriting in section 9 is Mr. Mawson's handwriting, in case you think it's particularly bad. I know mine's not particularly good. But I'm going to go through those questions on Friday. So if you could have had a go at those between now and then, that would be really helpful. And I hope you are all safe and well and choosing your one piece of exercise a day sensibly. And please be in touch if there's anything I can do to help. From a maths point of view, I'm afraid I'm not going to go and do your shopping for you. But yeah, I hope you're all well. Take care.